when we were discussing about the creation of a prescription drug program as part of Medicare for senior citizens back in 2002. So we had a number of debates, and the first of which was on a bill that Ted was sponsoring. And I went to the floor to address it in opposition because there was a provision in there where the drug benefit would expire after 6 years to pay for the program, so it would be sunsetted. And it turned out that Ted was the presiding officer. So he was sitting up on the dais in the chair in front of the chamber while I was giving this speech. So as I began my presentation, I put a chart on the easel. And in the background was a sunset. And in the foreground was a prescription drug bottle on the back of a horse that was riding off into the sunset. And it was a lamely drawn horse. And Ted looks up and he starts laughing so hard that he had to put all of his stack of papers in front of him to conceal the fact that he was laughing so hard. So even though I was opposing him, he couldn't believe it, that he could see such a sad depiction of a horse.
Could I just mention one quick story? I was honored to receive the John F. Kennedy Profiles in Courage Award. And that weekend was also the 6th birthday of my son, Jim. So I told Ted I couldn't go. He said, please go. He said, I promise you your son will have a great time. Well, we landed at the airport, drove there, and were met at the hotel, which was on the harbor. And Ted said, come on. We took him out to a Coast Guard cutter. We had a tour of the entire Boston Harbor for my son, Jim. 3 different birthday cakes, 3 different times they sang happy birthday to him, and several presents. You know, the kid had the best birthday probably he had ever had. I also wonder who paid for the Coast Guard cutter.
Department of the Navy, probably. He was very competitive. I mean, we all know about his competition, and he loved to win at anything, whether it was a tennis match or something else. I remember the morning after, and John will remember this, and certainly Barbara, we finished the health care bill in our committee. We didn't do it here, we did it in the caucus room, which is named for he and his brother, in the Russell building. And I got a call from him the next morning about 6 in the morning. He had heard the news that the committee had finished its markup. I would have thought the first thing he might have said was, well, good job on this part of the bill, the other. His first comments were, you beat the other 4 committees in getting a bill out. That was really, he was more interested in that. I wasn't seeing what the substance of the bill was. Very competitive.
But Senator Snowe, working with others in the House, Pat Schroeder, Connie Morella, me, Nancy, we were moving an agenda, and we realized there was no office of, we got women in the protocols, no office of women's health. He worked with me, reached out to me, reached out to Olympia and the gang in the House. We moved it. Herbert Walker put Bernadine Healy in as head of NIH. We came up with the Office on Women's Health. That's now more than 20 years ago. And guess what? The famous hormone study, a replacement study that was done under Dr. Healy's leadership, really has resulted in changing medical practice and reducing breast cancer rates by 15%. Teddy made all that happen by working with us, making sure he used his committee and his clout and did it. And at the same time, the way he worked like with Nancy, Senator Casselbaum, they would duke it out on health and what should the Medicaid regs be. But I remember we were invited to the wedding of Howard Baker and Nancy Casselbaum. And we went through the solemn and beautiful ceremony. Nancy and Howard Baker did the Tennessee Waltz, and the next thing I know, I was dancing with Howard Baker, Teddy was dancing with Nancy, and we were calling it the bipartisan boogie.